Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of the show. I'm Joe, and today I'm going to use the word the standard. That's two words actually. The standard. I have the absolute privilege of setting the standard. I've not used that as a designation on this show, not once until today. I'm going to introduce him in a minute, but first, day one for you, July 2013, correct?
Correct. July 1st.
How many employees?
60.
Today?
525.
How many members then?
20 some thousand.
How many states represented then?
We had employees in one state, and we worked with most states.
And today? How many members?
We have 50,000 plus members, and we have employees living and working in, I think, 32 states.
How many states represented in your membership?
All.
Any other countries?
Canada.
How much government contract flow through revenue then?
Less than 1 billion. The day I started, we had like $875 million flowed through our contracts.
Today?
Close to 14 billion.
How many best workplace awards then?
0.
Today?
11 in a row.
And you are a government agency with zero taxpayer dollars, correct?
Correct. We
and
are a
zero venture capital.
Local unit of government created in 1978 with no state allocation, no federal allocation, no ability to tax, and no ability to borrow money. Go be entrepreneurial and make good things happen. That was our direction.
One farm kid from northwestern Minnesota and a mission.
And first generation college student and a great team here who are service driven to make things happen.
And that's what I was just going to say. A team that has built a system to make things happen and scalable practices to actually sustain this momentum. And that is what we get to unpack today. Now the introduction, Dr. Chad Coet, Executive Director, CEO of Sourcewell. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be here.
So just take that. Just take it. You are the standard of how discipline planning, discipline action, it just produces eye-popping results that prove themselves year over year. You've been building this for over a dozen years. What does it like feel like to be you in this seat right now in this organization at this scale?
Yeah, for one, it feels good. I'll say it that we've been building a great team over the last 13 years. I celebrate my 14th anniversary coming up here very shortly. Kick off year 14, and the hard work we've been doing and continue to do, we watch the impact that it's making, and it just keeps building momentum for our team. We keep leaning in, finding new ways to serve, new ways to change, and just kind of continuing to evolve. I don't think it's so much revolution, but continued evolution and looking for how we can get better and how we can serve more, and finding great team members who have that same mentality. Show up on the team. How do we do something better tomorrow than we did today? How can we stretch ourselves a bit more tomorrow than we did today? And just keep doing that over and over. Status quo really doesn't exist at the organization.
You don't know how to spell mediocre. It's always misspelled. And you're doing all of this inside a sector that just still tells itself that you can't build a world-class culture in a government agency, right?
Yeah.
And the best people typically go private, right? That mission-driven actually means mediocre, right? And you've been doing this quietly. You've been doing it patiently. You've been doing it, I think, just completely dismantled. How about that? That was so powerful that I think we blew a circuit.
I think you said something about dismantling, and it went off.
Dismantling, and it just totally. How about that? But yeah, that's what I want to get to. Is just this differentiated mindset. I think it's a mindfulness that you bring to the work that says we can do this within a government agency. Were you taught that, or where did that come from?
as Joe, as you know, and folks here wouldn't know, I spent about 15 years in higher education roles prior to becoming CEO here at Sourcewell. And my roles in the higher education world were always in the workforce development, community development, partnerships kind of world where our departments at that time might have had a little seed money, but we had to generate our own revenue. So even though I've always worked in a public organization, I seem to find myself in either frontline, mid-level, or leadership roles of folks of these kinds of organizations that need to be entrepreneurial and that sit at this really interesting place as kind of this intersection of economic development, community development, workforce development, be entrepreneurial, go find ways to make an impact. And that's been my career. And at Sourcewell, we've been able to do that in just a significant way. I could see the potential when I applied for the job. A few folks helped paint this idea of what could be. I quickly caught on to that and agreed with them. We bolted alongside, brought on more great team members, and just really leaned into finding ways to create as much impact as possible. If we could find ways to do that and multiply our impact, bring value to people, it just created more of a flywheel to do more of that good work. And we've just been leaning into that, bringing on and building systems. But the one thing I think I've shared with you in the past, Joe, is we've been building out this leadership system with this kind of three-part. And if I sound like my job is repeating things over and over and over, I joke around. I said to Joe before that I think my real job is chief repeating officer.
We're going to use that CRO.
Yeah. But part of that is this leadership framework that we have been talking about and leaning into and building systems around is this, first and foremost, the top of this pyramid that has to be in balance, in my humble opinion, is that we need to be able to set and execute strategy. Who are you? Where are you going? How are you going to get there? And what's the discipline of getting better and better at setting that and executing against it? The second leg of the triangle is organizational culture. And I would argue, not argue, but a good definition that I use for organizational culture is simply the way we want to work here. I believe every single day when you show up, it's a collective choice of how you treat each other, how you treat those you serve, and how those intersect. And then the third part of the triangle that has to be in balance, in my opinion, is this idea of continuous improvement and operational excellence, knowing you never arrive, but how are you getting better? How are you building systems? So if you take how you set and execute strategy.
So that triangle is not, it's not a hierarchy. That triangle is a balanced triangle. So there's equal weight.
Equal weight.
You can't be muscle bound in strategy and not have culture.
If any one of those is off, and this has been where I've been the chief repeating officer with our senior leadership team, and we're building systems, just even stronger systems around this over the last 5 or 6 years, is that if any one of those three things are off, to your point, if you're good at setting strategy and you're good at continuous improvement, but you're not focusing on organizational culture, you can't attract or retain the great people you need to continue to execute against your strategy. If you got a great culture and you know how to get better, but you don't know where you're going and how to execute it, you flounder. Yeah. And the third part is if you know where you're going, you have a great culture, but you're not constantly paying attention to both the environment you're in, your systems, your processes, and improving, you simply fall behind. So it's like having those three things in balance is a really, really important part of ongoing conversations. It's how we've really started to do training. If we have an all-team meeting upcoming here, as an example, in the middle of July, we'll have all 500 plus people together in one place. The breakout sessions that day, whether team members will even know it or not, we'll have a framing around an element of strategy and execution, an element of culture, and an element of continuous improvement on purpose and by design, because our org dev team knows that if we're going to build out this strategy, or if we're going to build out this leadership system with those three components,
right,
we need to live it. It just needs to be part of who we are on a cadence, and it just needs to be embedded into as many things as we can possibly do. So that's how we keep really leaning into that, Joe.
How long did it take you to forge that triangle? I know I've seen different iterations and different illustrations, from the car analogy back in the day to different shapes, and it's been 14 years in the making. Right?
Yeah. I'll tell you, my headquarters in Staples, Minnesota. I live in Alexandria, Minnesota.
Most of you folks are going to have to Google that. Just,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
just,
It's a
it's not
distance
like
of
the Staples Center in LA. No, we're talking
Staples,
Staples,
Minnesota, town of 2,500 people is our corporate headquarters, our global headquarters. I love to say that. And great place, great town. But my home is 64 miles south and west of headquarters. So
the birthplace of
uh,
America, by the way.
birthplace of America. You got it. I agree with you. Google that, everybody. You'll learn more. Um, so pre-pandemic, I did a lot more driving back and forth. The remote work world now today has enabled lots of things where I'm not in a car quite as much as I used to be. And one of my drives home, I will tell you what, out of complete frustration, I scribbled down that triangle. It was in my head. I had articulated how important organizational culture was. We're working on some strategy, and I had a group of people, both inside and outside of the organization, continually argue with me. Maybe that's not the right term, but they were just could not get this buy-in of why I was so focused on getting culture right. And until I put all three of those pieces together and explained why I believe that the balance between each of those three, to your point, they need to be in balance. They need to have some level of conscious connection. And yes, you might be in a season of where you're spending a lot more time on strategy and execution, but you've got to rebalance that out. As soon as I drew that triangle out, started to put together the talk track around that, we've evolved over time with it. But people were like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I understand why that's such an important part in your mind and why you keep bringing this forward. Prior to that, they just wanted to keep hammering home strategy and execution. But man, if you don't have the culture piece right and you don't have the continuous improvement piece in your lens, you're kind of setting yourself up to really struggle.
So good. And I've been the guy that has been pushing you to write the book on just this model. And I don't know if it's the Sourcewell way or the Coet way or, just the Farm Kid way or whatever it happens to be. But my guess is you're going to keep feathering that thing. It's going to continue to nuance because you're going to find learning opportunities, which you have every season, learning opportunities to just continue. You weren't ready 2 years ago to write that book. And I'm not
I don't know if I'm ready to ever write a book.
I think you're always going to say I'm not ready to write that book, but I think the world is just starved for that level of clarity. Don't make me, squander 14 years of just kind of wandering around the organizational space and squandering, your talent and potential. Like you said, if we have clarity within the organization, it's job one alongside of the culture and the continuous improvement. That is the thing that gets you these awards for continuously being the most irresistible culture that attracts all of the right people and keeps your best ones. Right? As you think about public agencies, when they decide they want a great culture, because everybody's talking about it, what do you see them doing that just it's not working? And I mean structurally, not philosophically.
I don't know if they're being honest with themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I think one thing here that I'm really proud of that the team is we do surveys on a regular basis. We have a tool that we lean into that's a daily quick touch base so we can get feedback. We have various other advisory groups with our team to get feedback. And once a year, we do an annual survey. And again, every survey you do is a snapshot or moment in time, but you get a result.
Good feedback.
And every leader is then expected to go back to their team to say, this is what we heard from our team. We remember this was a moment in time. This might have been something happening here that we should talk about. How do we get better? And it's an expectation every year. We're at least having that conversation in every single team at least once a year, creating that learning ability. And then sometimes it's hard information to hear, especially in my seat. It's like, oh, I thought I was getting better at that. Oh, we have work to do. And we keep picking away and you keep learning and you find what works. But I think if you are really going to focus on organizational culture, and I think you first have to start with being honest with yourself and saying, we're not a perfect organization. I know Sourcewell isn't. We never will be. We'll constantly have things to work on.
Did you hear that, folks? Even the standard says we have some more work to do. That's why you're the standard. Absolutely why you're the standard.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. But yes, we have plenty of work to do.
Okay. So a place that I would never want to like single leg arm, whatever wrestlers, but you were a wrestler back in the day. And wrestling is that sport. And I just salute anybody who's had those experiences where there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
There's no teammate to absorb, pointing fingers on a bad day, no position to disappear into, and absolutely no score to blame. And you bring that mindset, you bring that mindfulness, I think, into your
Yeah.
role all the time. How has that experience impacted and influenced the seat that you sit in today? That coupled with being that farm kid, that crop farmer kid.
Yeah, there's no question. In fact, I've explained this to a few folks in the last couple of years. I said, just almost subconsciously, that wrestling work. I was a high school wrestler, college wrestler, coached high school wrestling for a period of time. When my youngest child, wrestled for a period of time, I helped coach them. So I've spent a lot of time in that world and just love every minute of it. And the thing that I like to talk about, because you bring this up, that when it is time, it's go time, you're on the mat all alone. Sometimes if it's a dual meet, you're on the mat with one other person all alone in the middle of a gym of 1,500 people looking at you under a spotlight. You have nowhere to hide.
That is so unfair. It's
it's right on spotlight. Top. Spotlight. And it is you. To your point, your coach can help you, give you advice. They can scream at you. You got colleagues that are supporting you along. You're feeding off the crowd, but it's you. And in my role, I look at it, if I look at a wrestling team as a whole, and I equate that over to my senior leadership or some of our other key leaders, we first and foremost are a team that has to take individual responsibility that when we're on the mat, it's our turn to shine, whether that's in the CEO role, the CFO role, the Chief Talent Culture Office role, the Chief Operating Officer role. You are in the spotlight executing against what you need to get to. We're a team.
Yeah.
We're all a team. We're running a team score at the end, but the team score ends up being adding all of the individual results going on together.
I didn't know they were going to go there, but that is like
it's
next
huge.
Level. So good.
It is.
So
but
good.
Here's the kicker, right? So when it's not performance time, when you're not on the mat, everybody's your partner in that room. Now you're rolling around with different in a wrestling room, not this metaphorical, not in the senior leadership team.
You're going to step into this interview and go, what?
Yeah. We're not incriminating anybody here, but in a practice room, all sizes and shapes and talents, you're rolling together, you're learning together. But when it's performance time, you take all of that learning that now you've been bumping and shoving and training and lifting weights and running with the team, but it's time for you to shine. Now you take all of those things you've been working on, and now you've got this piece that's yours. You own it, you drive it, you work with your colleagues, you score your individual match so that you can add up all the wins along the way, regroup, go to the next dual meet again. It takes everybody. There's nobody who can go on that mat and hide and say, that's not my responsibility. No, you're a lightweight. You need to kick off this dual meet. I'm counting on you as the heavyweight that you're going to do your part. You're going to do your part. And in the end of the day, we hopefully have a couple team wins. We learn, we improve, we get better, we train, bump and grind a little bit more, get after the next thing. What's our goal? And that frames so much of my expectation of my colleagues, both here and partners. Like, you committed to this. You said you were going to do that. I'm counting on you to do that because I'm over here doing my part that links with that. And if we can get as more of those links together, the stronger we're going to be, the more impact we're going to make.
In a word, and it's not accountability, I think that word has reached its shelf life. It truly is. It's ownership. It's
ownership, for sure, 100%.
It's ownership. And there are a couple of phrases that I have picked right out of your back pocket and I use on a regular basis. And my favorite, and it's a phrase that I think it's the most honest sentence in organizational leadership. Hey friends, quick question before we get back to it. I know that you have talented people on your leadership team, but is your team actually performing to its full potential? Most aren't. And most don't know why. The Team Intelligence Assessment is a solution to change that. Find out where your team stands at higherperformancegroup.com. Go to find your starting point to get started today, or click the QR code in the screen right here. All right, back to the show. Folks, this is so good. You can't fire a cannon out of a canoe. You knew where I was going.
You did it. I did it.
Where does that come from? If you're not the original, I don't care. In my mind, you're the original. And what does that mean to you as a decision-making discipline in leadership?
Yeah, well, Joe alluded to this earlier. I was a wrestler. I wrestled for a couple of years in college, Division II school, University of North Dakota.
Salute.
Thank you. And I was a freshman, probably 158, 160 pounds soaking wet, wrestling 150 pounds. And I was a walk-on to the team. And the then strength coach for the wrestling team was a retired CFL lineman. So he was a Canadian Football League lineman. He was a giant. And I've kind of forgotten more about what his name was at this point in time because it's so many years ago. I'm an old dude. But he would yell, "You can't fire a cannon out of a canoe" on days that were scheduled to be, heavy leg days. And he's like, "Get in there, get on the leg press, get on the squat rack, get in the lunges." Any day that was the heavier emphasis of your workout, he would be screaming, "You can't fire a cannon out of a canoe." Meaning, I interpreted that meaning you have to have a base. As a wrestler, you have to have that base of strength. You can't take a good shot. You can't take a good defensive position unless you have that base. Convert that over to the work world. And if you have this giant aspiration and you're trying to take your organization to the moon, and if you don't have a base of systems and supports and trust and culture and all the things you need to be able to go off of, you're literally trying to fire a cannon out of a canoe, and you might be able to do it once. And my goal, our goal as a collective team is not to do that just once. Hopefully we're firing that cannon. You might get lucky.
Yeah. And you get a newspaper headline, but then prove it.
And how are you firing that cannon, whatever that is, that rocket, that cannon, towards whatever your goals are over and over and over, because you've built this solid base. You've done the work in the weight room. You've done the work in the systems. You've done the work in team culture. That way you're able to fire that over and over and over and over and keep your momentum. So that's what "you can't fire a cannon out of a canoe" means to me. Probably some sheer fear of that man back in the college weight room.
Man. But it sticks. It definitely sticks. And I think that has created a culture. I mean, yes, your background, the leader creates the culture, but you're doing it through the team now. And the team is impacting the system. And people listening in who've never heard of Sourcewell, just know that you're 2 or 3 people on the planet right now. Most people have heard of Sourcewell because of the impact. My guess is if you're in a public institution, you're probably receiving some of the impact of Sourcewell. You represent a community right now that is receiving incredible benefit. The communities that you serve, the rural communities, small school districts, many of them are under-resourced cities, and they don't have procurement departments. They don't have talent development budgets, right? They don't have a Chad. If the model that you're building here, if it fails or if it underperforms or can't be replicated, what is actually happening to these small entities?
Yeah, well, we recognize, and within our Minnesota statute that we're formed by, we can do lots of things. One of the things that we do, and we do at scale, is help people purchase things, serve government, education, nonprofits all across the country, streamline how they buy things, get great efficiency, pricing, et cetera, et cetera. And the thing that we aspire to, beyond just continuing to double down on how we help people do that great work in purchasing, is find more challenges to help solve, because we recognize small cities, counties, universities, colleges everywhere often have some of the exact same challenges, and they're having to solve them in isolated little buckets. And if we can put new solutions in the marketplace that help solve it in Pennsylvania, it might solve for somebody in Ohio, might solve for somebody in Minnesota. So this idea of being a hub of solutions and really growing out the ways to help solve challenges in education, government, and nonprofit spaces is what drives us. And like I said, right now we've got at scale and continued to double down on the work we're doing in cooperative purchasing and helping in that space. We've launched some really cool solutions with our military partners. So shout out to Army Reserve, and Navy Marines. Really excited about where that's going. And we just continue to lean in, listen, talk to sheriff's departments, transportation departments, procurement leaders, and say, what are you struggling with every day? If we can find a way to help start to solve that, pilot that, drive it out, we're going to be bringing that out to neighborhoods near you in the near future. And we're just really excited to do that work because the work, what's happening on the national scale allows us to make an impact on the national scale. It allows us to bring some revenue stream back in. Again, we have no ability to tax, no ability to borrow money, no state allocation, no federal allocation, to come back to 5 of the poorest counties in the state of Minnesota and make a difference for the cities, counties, nonprofits, and communities here to provide things that they otherwise would not have access to. Great training, shared services, dollars that help spin up opportunities that otherwise would never happen. So this work to make a difference across the nation, to be able to make a difference in our community, is a really cool spot to be.
You know that I spend a lot of time with district and campus leaders, presidents, and other folks, and many of them have a mission to truly change family trees, right? Just the opportunities, looking for problems and kind of rewiring what generationally has happened and pivoting opportunities to whole nother realms of possibilities. And I would say that Sourcewell is doing much of the same. I don't know if you've ever thought about it like that, but you truly are.
I have.
That level of impact is changing a family tree. You've built something that doesn't exist anywhere else at this scale in the public sector. My wonder is the Sourcewell model that you're building, and I don't know if you have a name for it yet. Once you have a name, then we're going to have a book, just so you know.
Thanks.
But is that exportable? Can another cooperative purchasing agency take your model and put it to scale across their system? Can you do it, or is that unique to just your region?
No, I think others could do it, and there are we compete in the marketplace with folks who do this good work. Where we don't compete with people in this space is thinking more holistically about how do we bring more solutions. You can think any given one strand of a solution, and yes, we have people who we compete with in the greater marketplace. But at the moment, as we continue to grow and build out these solutions and hubs of solutions, be thinking of it from a rural workforce development, a rural community development. How are we putting solutions out that really make a difference for all of the entities that we serve? We sit in a very unique space, that's for sure.
You do, and if you
but I will say, Joe, just that the idea though of our leveraging the leadership system we've been building, and again, this needs to fit context of
absolutely
everyone's organization, but the idea of how do you focus on setting and executing strategy, how do you balance that and focus on organizational culture, and how do you balance that and focus on continuous improvement? That's exportable to anywhere. That's exportable into your own models, but thinking through that in that triangle of how those things are in balance in your own individual context. I hope that's leveraged by as many people as possible on here, just to do a gap analysis of like, how are we doing? If we're to truly balance at our organization, do their own individual measure on those 3 things and what they mean to them, that is exportable and hopefully helps multiply some impact somewhere.
That simple framework, you can put it in your bones, and you can portage it to any situation.
Any situation.
Right? Strategy, culture, continuous improvement.
Yeah, you got it.
Rinse and repeat.
And do over and over and over.
Well, Chief Repeating Officer, I wish we had more time, but I do want to get into the lightning round. And
you got it.
Where you are flying at different planets. You're just in different orbits altogether, Chad, but we're going to bring you right down to the boots on the ground here to see how human you really are. Yeah. So ready? Lightning round.
I'm ready.
Don't overthink this. Is there a quote that you live by?
Yeah. Well, can't fire a can out of a canoe. You already gave that one away. I think there's an interesting one someone told me. I don't use it very often. I use it in very select situations, but somebody said to me one day, they go, if you ever find a turtle on a fence post, you have to know they did not get them there themselves. And some days I feel like a turtle on a fence post, and I have to literally look around to say thank you to all the team who helped me get here. And that just sits with me.
So good. So good. I said there were 2 things that I pilfered from you.
Yeah.
The other phrase is stay in joy or leave in peace. That's a whole different phrase, but I've used that one. I actually just used that yesterday. All right. What's the worst advice that you've heard in leading people?
Worst advice is I report into a public elected board of directors. great people, 6 locally elected school board members and 2 county commissioners, or county commissioner and mayor right now. They're other elected officials, so 8 board members. Worst advice when I first started this job was somebody outside of the organization told me to go it alone in the board meetings. Don't bring your senior leaders with you. Just take it on all yourself. That is terrible advice that I'm sure glad I never, ever listened to. I bolt our senior leadership team into those meetings because I want the board to see those strong leaders, hear from them right from their mouths, and build trust as a team. And we bring other people into those meetings. So the advice that I got of go alone, sit with your board, and just run those all by yourself, bad idea. Please, if anyone's considering that, do not do that.
How about the best advice that you've ever received?
Somebody told me this was years ago. This was, I think, pre me even pursuing my PhD, and I've had that since 2010. So this is early 2000s. Someone told me this. They said, if you tell the world where you want to go, the world will work with you to get there.
That is so rich.
It has been so true. Whenever I've articulated something that I'm wanting to work towards, it's amazing the people that will come out of the just different spaces at the right time to guide you to something. I am sitting in this role today because a person I knew I wanted to lead an organization. I just didn't know, coming from the higher education space, that it wasn't going to be as a college president. They said, you should really look into this opportunity at a place called Sourcewell. I would not be here today without having articulated that with a group of people for them to know, and out in the world said, here's something you should pursue.
That's heavy. That is heavy. Is there an unpopular opinion that you are really eager to defend?
Yeah, you baited me into this one earlier too. I would say, as a former high school wrestler, college wrestler, wrestling coach, our headquarters happens to be here in Staples, Minnesota, the home of the 2-time defending champion wrestling team. I would say that Minnesota should be known as the state of wrestling, not the state of hockey. I would think that would be wildly unpopular with a bunch of folks, but I'm going to bank on that one.
So we'll give hockey to Iowa.
Well, they're not going to live up to it, just so you know. Sorry, Iowa, but that's not happening.
How about something that you've changed your mind about recently?
I change my mind a lot, and I might not do it out loud. I think sometimes I want to make sure I show up. You make a decision, you stick to the decision, but I do change my mind. I won't give you a very specific example, but I've started to really think through, and we talk about this regular at Sourcewell. As a former colleague, he left for another opportunity, and love him to death. He coined the phrase and brought it in here and said, we should always reserve the right to be smarter. And I think as you have more information, as things progress and you just gain additional insights, if that means changing your mind, you should change your mind. If you're just being stubborn, that's foolish. So there are things, as you gain additional insights that maybe didn't make sense at a certain point in time, your hard line on this decision, as things become unveiled, you peel back the onion, things transpire, understand that you now have more information to make that decision. So reserve the right to get smarter.
Gold. A decision that you'd make 10 times over in this career.
Taking this role. I've reflected on that often. After 15 years in 2-year colleges, a couple different 2-year colleges, great experiences. Having been invited to apply for this role through the colleague I just mentioned, who kind of knew what I wanted to do, it was a leap of faith to leave a space that was pretty comfortable into an area that I really knew nothing about other than the potential I could see from the interview and the conversations, and could see what could be. And man, I look back and think, man, I'd make that decision, not 10, 20, I'd make that decision every single day. And with the hindsight, of course, I've now have more information, but so blessed to have been able to make that decision.
You are so well placed. But if you're not running Sourcewell, what are you going to be doing?
I probably would have been continued to pursue college presidencies. Specifically 2-year college presidencies, and Minnesota's great system, grew up in the system, learned a lot in the system. And I just really learned to understand and value how the 2-year college systems, especially in rural Minnesota, are the conveners of conversations. They're pulling together folks from all over the community and economic development and workforce development and working with the local high schools and just trying to be a bridge. And when that's done well, you create a tremendous amount of impact. And I was really loving that and looking forward to leading a college to lead that journey of my own. And I fortunately landed here at Sourcewell, where we're doing that at scale.
Is there a word or a short phrase for Sourcewell's future?
Yeah, impact, growth and impact. We continue to put the proverbial foot on the gas. I'm excited about what the team's doing, both within our region, really creating some awesome systems to support folks in our region, but the work across the nation that makes it all happen is foot on the gas, continue to find new ways to serve and drive.
Last question, your go-to jam. You've got 10 minutes left in this hard workout. What do you have pumping in your ears?
Yeah, shout out to my daughter who introduced me to a band named Greta Van Fleet. She and I have she's 23 now. Between the time she was 19 and now, we've seen them 2 times. She's seen them somewhere else once, and they're an amazing live band. They have a song called Highway Tune. And I would say if you're driving down the road, you better have cruise control on, because otherwise you will find yourself speeding. So that would definitely be my jam.
I love it. And I have absolutely loved the opportunity. I've been waiting for this one for a long time. And I think the lesson that we pull out of this, it truly is the triangle. Yeah, if there's one thing that you can pull out of this, you don't need to draw it on the whiteboard, because it's that simple. And it's also that scalable.
Correct.
And that sustainable strategy. Culture.
How do you set and execute? Because
not just set strategy, you've got to actually move to done. Get her done. Yep. And building culture, and your definition of culture again?
The way we want to work here.
And continuous improvement is, I just call that E-R. It's better. Every single day.
Every day.
Right.
Every day. Those 3 things working together in balance is critical.
Folks, you just got to, if you're not a Sourcewell member, figure out how to become a Sourcewell member. So there's your must. But if you want to learn more about Sourcewell and all the good things that they're doing, where would you direct them, Chad?
Yeah, on the national work, sourcewell-mn.gov, and on our regional work, sourcewell.org.
That is the show, and this is the standard, folks. Thanks again, Dr. Coet, for joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. It's a pleasure.